What's up, everybody? This is Devin White, linebacker for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You're listening to the LCC Network. Go Bucks.
Hey everyone, welcome to Commissioner's Clubhouse and the LCC Network for the 2021 Divisional Round here in the Little Critters Clubhouse. This is the time where some people's hearts have already been broken, others are soon to have their hearts broken. And with me today, it is a reunion of all sorts. I am playing my former co-broadcaster on the LCC or Commissioner's Clubhouse. I'm playing Jameson, and not only am I playing him, I've got him on the show tonight. Just the two of us, like old times. What's going on, man?
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be back, even for an episode. I'm stoked. And this is the second thing I didn't think I would be in this week. The playoffs and here on the LCC broadcast.
That's right. Just like 2 weeks ago, Jameson's chance of making the playoffs were pretty slim. Or not 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, they were relatively slim. Now he is in the divisional round, a dark horse in the playoffs. And I'm not gonna lie, as we're recording this at 9:55 on a Thursday during the Thursday night games, I'm really nervous because we're at the moment Nasir Adderley has 5 points for me. It's not looking good. But without talking about my own players and our own matchup, let's dive into it, Jameson. I guess obviously we're going to talk about all 4 playoff matchups in the LCC here in the divisional round, but we'll also very briefly just do our picks for the Developmental Draft Invitational. Before we get into any of that, I guess we will very quickly announce that the official rule change poll will be rolling out tomorrow. It looks good. I think I covered everyone's rule proposals and everything who did it on time, and some of them needed a further breakdown. For example, the developmental draft, not developmental draft, listen to me, developmental league. There's a lot of things in there that needed to be decided on and stuff, and I didn't want us in a situation where, we decided, yay, we're going to do it, but, in terms of the nuts and bolts of it, how's it going to operate? Like, is it going to be a keeper league? Is it going to be, what's the pay going to be for the people who are joining this? So I wanted to make sure everyone had a say in all that stuff if it even passes, and same with some of the other rules. So there's more questions than there are rule proposals because of that reason. And it's not because there's extra rules added. It's just that some of those rules are really needed. There were multiple parts to it, and so they needed to be voted on. But yeah, I guess Jameson, should we talk about the questions really quick, or?
Yeah. Feel free, like, briefly, just kind of like go through them, and maybe if there's any clarity that needs to be done on any of them, we can touch on that really, really quick.
Okay, yeah, and we'll be quick about this because obviously most people want to hear us do the playoff breakdown. So this will be very, very quick. We're just going to go through the questions. Or should we do all the questions or just the ones that might need to be explained a little bit?
Maybe not all of them. I mean, there's some that are pretty explanatory. I think if there's some that need to maybe have a lot of detail, maybe a quick summary or something like that, right? Because some of these are kind of a little more complex, but some are pretty straightforward. Like the fab, that's pretty straightforward. Not sure we have to spend time on something like that,
Yeah. Well, I already mentioned the developmental league. So basically, it'd be like how you have the, you used to have NFL Europe. You have, I don't know. I'm trying to think of other developmental leagues and other sports. Like in Major League Baseball, you've got literally multiple developmental leagues or feeder leagues to the MLB. Well, that's kind of how this would be, but it would just be one league. The size would depend on the demand for people who want in the LCC. And So yeah, that's that. I mean, one of the questions is, if it was formed, should it be a redraft or keeper league? And while that's a straightforward question, you have to think to yourself, do I want to put these like newcomers in a situation where they're literally mimicking everything that the LCC is? That way we can fully evaluate them. Or is that going to put us in a situation where, I don't know, are people going to be burnt out because they're not even in the league yet and they've already inherited a bad team? It's going to take them multiple years to develop that team before they can ever get into the actual LCC. So, you know, you got to think about that. And I don't even know the answer to that one. I really don't know what's best. I haven't even decided yet what I think, but I'm sure everyone will have an opinion. So hopefully that'll sort itself out. And then the pay for that, I put 3 different numbers. You have to keep in mind, though, it is roughly $70, something like that, to like renew the My Fantasy League subscription. So this league would have their own website, and so just keep that in mind. So we could go super cheap, but they may not have a big payout depending on how many teams there are. Some of the other stuff.
Okay.
This one's actually the biggest thing, honestly. If the developmental league happens, you know, should we create a ladder to the LCC? Basically, some sort of system where you're guaranteed a spot, no matter what, whether or not there's a spot available or not. You're guaranteed a seat in the LCC. And I combined both performance in the developmental league. So, like, you know, if you win the championship, you know, how active are you in the league? Because I don't think, at this point, I think we need more people who are willing to take on responsibilities within the LCC. I think while Jordan and I and even Jameson, I think have done a great job of really, and like even Cody's helped out at times, and Matt Legg, it can only rest on someone's shoulders for so long. Like, you know, the torch has to be passed and the load has to be lightened. And, you know, this year we had our first ever second podcast going on in the LCC, which is great. LCC After Dark. You know, we have team Twitter pages. We have a league Twitter page that we've had for like 2 years now or so. So, like, those are types of people I want in the league.
Those are a lot of fun, by the way.
Yeah. So it's basically a point system how you get in. If you get 100 points, you're guaranteed a spot. That's one of the rules. Or maybe we don't have that. Maybe we just offer these developmental teams a spot in the LCC if a spot opens up, like if a guy gets kicked, or if someone quits or something. But I feel like sometimes, depending on how big this thing gets, we may need to guarantee a spot because maybe something will never open up, and then we'll just keep losing guys in the developmental league, and that's no fun for anyone, you know? So I think it's important that we create some sort of ladder to keep people interested, and both active within the league, but also active outside the league, if that makes sense. Because I think the podcasts, the Twitter pages, those are like self-fulfilling recruiting tools for this league, and I'd like to see more of that going forward. But take a look at that when you see the question. Read all through that. What were we going to say?
No, I was just going to say, you definitely need to, if we're going to do that, just kind of kick it around, think about it. We can maybe hash out some of the really, finite details and things like later, but it is kind of good to think about if we're going to do this. What do we want it to look like, right? So,
yeah.
Yep. Future of the LCC.
Exactly. And then, James, this is what you proposed. Should we reduce regular season roster sizes from 13 to 12? As you know, right now you can have 2 positions besides quarterback. We're going to have 3 players at that position. This would ultimately make it to where you only have 1 position where you have 3 players. And James, I know you suggested this to basically create more depth in the free agency pool.
Yeah, just real quick, just it drops 24 players kind of back into the waiver pool. Ideally you only have that flex because you should be able to roster 2 quarterbacks, but you can't roster 2 in our league, right? So we could actually bump it to 12, open up a little more of the waiver wire, a little more of the talent, with some players that are being roster, your linebackers, DBs, probably not running backs. We're going to hold them regardless, right? Because they're so shallow. But, it'll open up a little bit without, I think, doing too much. It also makes you be a little more strategic with your roster and how you hold guys, and maybe even make you make tough decisions on who you keep if they're injured, right? Because we're in a keeper league and hold someone for 3 or 4 years. But if they're hurt and you need a roster spot, maybe you have to drop them. So just a little more competition, a little more strategy, and a little more depth, right? So that's kind of all it was about.
And then this one, Eddie proposed, and it is a great idea in its core, but unfortunately, my fantasy league just cuts us down at the knees on this, and that the proposal is to award 1 extra point for tackles for loss compared to regular tackles. The issue here is that my fantasy league does not track tackles for loss in live scoring, which means you wouldn't see these points for tackles for loss until, who knows, at the end of the game, by Thursday of the next week. I don't know. But to me, all that uncertainty, that'd be a weekly occurrence, literally a weekly occurrence for all 24 teams. For me, that's a hard pass. I'm not interested in that unless it's actually in live scoring. I'm going to be voting for no on that. I would expect most people will, just because, people already complain about stat changes after the fact. This would be a weekly stat change for every team, and you wouldn't truly know what your points were going to be, honestly, by the end of it all.
I love the idea, though. That's
a
lot of fun. I like that idea.
And what I hate is that my fantasy league would even let that be an option if they're not going to put that in their live scoring. That just seems silly to me. And then the other one, like Jameson said, there's not much to say about it. Should we get rid of the waiver wire and replace it with a free agency acquisition bidding system, or FAB is what it's most commonly called? I will say this about that. Earlier this week, or last week, sorry, there was complaints about, possible collusion in the league between both Cameron and Big Os, the Spurs and Slapdicks.
Oh God.
And I hate to even bring this up because me personally, and this is the last time I'll mention it, I think it's kind of a stretch to truly accuse either one of them colluding. I don't think there's any hardcore evidence behind it. I won't get into much more than that, but what I'm trying to get at here is that the FAB system plus the other rule change further down here and the 24-hour player lock, both of those together make it literally impossible to collude through add and drops. Because think about it. If through waivers, let's say you do the 24-hour lock, I could drop a guy Sunday at 12:59 p.m. and if, let's pretend Big Oz did that, and then Cameron's first in the waivers for next week, he could intentionally do that so that Cameron gets that player, right? Because he knows he's first in the waiver wire, and they've worked out this unofficial trade which circumvents the rules of the league. But if you do a FAB system, then it's anyone's ball game at that point. Not only do you have the 24-hour lock, which makes it harder to collude, but you don't know what other people are going to bid on that player. There's no guarantee that you get that player. So I think together, it literally makes it 100% impossible to collude through ad drops. And it's not like this is a rampant thing in the LCC. We've had it happen literally one other time, actually happen. And that's it. So is it a rampant thing? No, but I think it's still good for the league to have both those rules in place.
And just to be very clear, these were not these rule proposals were not based on that at all.
No, these were in place before that, actually.
Right? Yeah. So, but I mean, it does help, those concerns, right? Obviously, but it also has a lot of competition, right? FAB allows everyone to compete every week, not just the top of the guys at the waiver wire. It also allows you to to compete every week, not just wait until you get your waiver wire at the top and then get a guy, right? I played in one this year, and it was life-changing from a fantasy perspective, because I was like, all right, that opens up so many doors for what I can do every week. And then the 24-hour rule, that wasn't really to stop collusion. I guess it helps, but it really was to kind of give everyone a chance to see everything. Because again, I've also seen that in other leagues and didn't really like it at first. But then when guys were dropped and I wasn't missing them because they're locked, I could actually log in every day, look at the pool, and then I could say, oh, well, I'm going to try to get this guy when he unlocks, right? Whether it was through Fab or whether it was through drop, because we all work different schedules, right? So none of us have the time to go in the app every 5 minutes, right? So, or check our emails. So it really kind of gives everyone a chance every night or every day or whatever to review it and say, oh, this guy dropped this guy 4 hours ago. He opens up, tomorrow. I'm going to try to pick him up, right? So those two things tied together obviously do a lot, but you can vote together, you can vote separate, but I think they're both good for the competition of the league moving forward.
Definitely. And then I don't want this to be a rule change episode, so this will be the last thing we talk about. I'm not going to talk about all of these. There's plenty more on here to vote on. There's, I think, roughly 13 or 14. But one that I think we'd be crazy not to discuss is the reasoning behind the limit to the number of draft picks proposal. Basically, the proposal is, should we limit the number of picks entered into the rookie draft to 3, which matches the current limit of rookies that you can draft? The reasoning behind doing this is that currently it takes us 3 to 4 days basically to do a rookie draft, and what should take a day, not even a day, like an hour or 2 hours. But because we let people put unlimited amounts of picks in the rookie draft and only select 3, is that it's a bunch of skipping. And then you're waiting on someone to skip their 13th pick that they put in the rookie draft. It's absurd. And it takes forever. And so honestly, it's to speed up that process and to make people be more strategic on where they put their rookie picks and truly think through it. And if you also think of this aspect...
And that was the...
Oh, I was just going to say, if you think of this aspect too, if you reduce roster sizes, if that ends up going through, I mean, I don't even know if that many people are going to draft 3 rookies anymore, because the roster sizes are at, 12 basically. So it's gonna reduce the need to have that many rookies, or you wouldn't want to because you'd be locked with them.
Yeah, I think for me, it's just about the competition. Like, the time obviously is a benefit, but like, my goal every year is to propose rules that are going to raise the level of competition and level of strategy, right, that's required. And so right now we have a lot of flexibility, which is cool, not a problem. But I think the more you kind of tighten these things, the roster sizes, the fab, the 24-hour lock, the picks you can put in, like, you tighten these things a little bit, and it requires you to think a little more and plan a little more and read a little more, and to me that's fun. And that's kind of what I always try to push the league toward, right? Like, that's how I think we started with IDP, right? We're like, all right, we want to take it to the next step, right? And so then that was kind of the next thing with the merging to one player pool, right, with strategy. All right, let's make it even tougher and tougher and tougher. And that's kind of the goal, not to take the fun out of it, but to just do a little more strategy, a little more work, a little more prep, a little more, competition, with every single thing we can to make the league better, right? That's my goal, at least. So, and I think those things do that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it definitely raises the competition. It speeds up processes too. And I think it makes it more fun at the end of the day. Like, I think competition, if you enjoy competition, you enjoy fantasy football. If you don't enjoy competition, you shouldn't be playing fantasy football because it's competition. So therefore, you should want a more competitive league. And I think, get out of here. That's what this does. So that's all we'll talk about for the rule changes, because we're already 19 minutes into this podcast, just from that alone. So let's dive into our divisional matchups. We'll go to Conference A here for our very first matchup. And this one's already underway, actually, between Beg for G-Rag and Mr. 300. Currently, as I am speaking, Mr. 300 has the lead with 39 points. Currently has 2 guys playing, so that's solid. He's got 6 from Keenan Allen, but he's hurt. That sucks. But Joey Bosa has 33 already, so he's making up for what Keenan Allen hasn't done.
Keenan's back. He's playing.
Oh, he is back now.
It looked like he was hurt for a little bit.
I don't have the TV in front of me, so I'm not watching it.
Before we got on this podcast, I've got it muted here. I'm watching it, so I'm making sure Nasir Adderley doesn't get you any points while we're doing this. So literally right before we got on the podcast, like Bosa hadn't done much. Like Keenan Allen was hurt, and I was like, all right, that's it for Colby. Like, I'm going to go on here and basically declare BP like he's the guy moving forward. And then right after I said that to you, Bosa got a strip sack. Keenan Allen came back in the game, and I was like, all right, never mind. Like we're back to like a pretty even matchup. Colby has been awesome this year. No surprise. He's always been pretty competitive. I still got to go with BP, though. Like, his team, he put up 334 points last week with a 7-man roster. Like, I don't know how you can't pick him, to represent the conference. I mean, both rosters are pretty loaded. And Colby's having a pretty good night with Bosa. It's going to be very competitive. But after what BP did last week, it's hard to overlook. It's hard to get that out of your mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think for me, when I look at Colby's team, in some areas, theoretically speaking, they should be neck and neck. But he has some tough matchups. Like, for example, Jonathan Taylor going against the Patriots. Dude, Bill Belichick lives on shutting guys down. Like, he is one of the best defensive minds in NFL history, in my opinion. And he's shown why, because you look at fantasy players who have played against him throughout the past couple of decades, and they've been shut down. Keenan Allen is starting out with 6 points, too, on top of that. He's got Baron Browning playing this week for Denver against Cincinnati. I'm not crazy about that matchup, honestly. Bobby Wagner is pretty solid against the Rams. I think he'll have a pretty good game, but I think I like some of the matchups more for BP. Like Dalvin Cook, I think he's going to have a good game against Chicago. Cooper Kupp, I think he's going to have an amazing game against Seattle. I mean, literally like the worst pass defense in the league. Myles Garrett's going to have a good game.
No OBJ.
Yeah, and no OBJ on top of that.
No OBJ in LA.
Yeah.
I like that you mentioned JT because he is such a stud, and Colby is set for years with him. But if there's a game where he's gonna be average, it's gonna be against New England, right? Like,
yes.
I think they're playing at home, but like this is the game where Bill would be like, all right, like we're gonna load the box. You're not gonna run. Like you are not. We're gonna force you to throw. You're not gonna run, right? So, it could be a down. When I say down, I mean like 25 points, right? Like it's still pretty good, but it could be a quote unquote down week for JT.
Yeah, JT, I mean, he's definitely the future, I feel like, of fantasy running backs in terms of like his youth and how dominant he's been. Fortunately for Colby, next year is his last year with him, unless he franchise tags him the year after, which means he gets no keepers, which would be a bummer. So
it's worth it.
But it's worth it.
It's worth it.
It's JT. Like, if he keeps playing like this, he's worth it.
Take it from a guy who's never had a fantasy running back in this league. It's worth it. It's worth it.
Literally, the curse. Like the way I am cursed with receivers, you're cursed with running backs.
Every year.
So I think it's safe to say we're both.
So are you
going
picking BP?
Yeah. I think I'm going BP.
Okay. Yep.
All right. So that was pretty easy, honestly. I thought we were going to go into more detail on that one, but that was pretty easy for us. Our next matchup, I think it's going to be much closer. Arguably, honestly, the best game of the week is the third leg going against the hash-slinging slashers. Man, Armando's team has been great all year. Same with Charles's team. I mean, you're talking about just two guys who I feel like have dominated throughout the year, been pretty consistent for the most part. What really is crazy about Charles is, in my opinion, he hasn't really had a QB1, here lately. And he's got Jimmy G in his lineup. Zeke hasn't been the Zeke of years past. But where he's made up the points is on defense with Eric Kendricks and Micah Parsons. The big question, though, is I know Eric Kendricks was questionable earlier in the week. Still listed as questionable at this time. But let's see, 4 hours ago, Eric Kendricks was recently on the injury report with a bicep issue, but apparently but he apparently tweaked his back during last week's win over the Steelers. Should have a chance to suit up Monday if Chicago can or if he can return to practice Friday or Saturday. So it sounds to me like that's still up in the air. We may not even see Eric Kendricks. If that's the case,
yeah,
I don't like it. I don't like it at all because he's got, in my opinion, hardly anyone left to go with. I mean, Sony Michel, Melvin Gordon maybe at flex. Adrian Phillips, I guess.
Well, this is what I would do. If Kendricks is out, Nick Vigil's going to be the guy who plugs in. So if I would drop one of those safeties, grab Nick Vigil, like because he's been rock solid when Barr or Kendricks were out this year. But yeah, if you plug somebody else in, Sonny Michel in Seattle could have a good game, but I don't like flexing offensive players. That's just me.
I don't either.
Right, I went 5-8, so I don't know what maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but I still like his team. Plus Mondo, he's got some injuries and some
yes,
some
Leonard
things happening.
Fournette
Although I do like what
is the one I think is really the biggest thing to watch in all this. Does Fournette come back? Because obviously you went and got the backup just in case you got Rojo.
Yes.
A good move on your part. I hate it for myself, but Fournette is currently questionable. And it's not looking too good, honestly, in my opinion, for him.
He hasn't practiced all week. He's got Cordell, who he could plug in, I guess, if he had to.
Yeah, and Cordell, I mean, as we know, has been great.
Yeah.
So, I mean, basically, Leonard Fournette's his flex player. So, really, he would just throw in Andrew Wingard, who doesn't have a great matchup, Matt Milano, who's playing against the Panthers. That could be solid. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So how are you? So are you leaning toward Mondo here?
For me, I think I got to go Armando at this point. Yeah, no. And the other Lamar Jackson, we didn't mention this. He's questionable. Have you heard anything about him?
He's not practicing. That's the only thing I know. Is he's not practicing.
Wow. That's wild.
Which isn't good this late in the week, right?
No, not at all. So. I don't even know who you would get. God, I don't even know
Davis
who to pick.
Mills.
There's so much up in the air.
Superstar rookie.
There's so much up in the air between these two teams. Like, I'm going to go, assuming everyone's healthy on both teams. I'm just going to assume that, right? Because it's questionable, so we don't know for sure. Okay. I'm going slinging slashers. I think they get the win. I know it's favored, or my fantasy league is favoring the third leg. He's supposed to win 202 to 179. That seems super low to me. But, yeah, I'm still going slinging slashers in this one.
Okay. This one's tough. This one's going to be very, very close. Very competitive. I could see this one being the closest game of the week if I had to kind of put money on it. I don't expect Leonard Fournette to play. It may be premature, but I don't expect him to play. So
I think that's safe to say, else.
So I'm probably going to pick Charles here. They've both been very good, but Eric Kendricks, if he plays, I mean, he's like Darius Leonard right now. Like, he's just so locked and loaded for 40 points. Like, it feels like every week. The thing that has me a little bit worried is Amari Cooper, because this is not the Amari Cooper that used to beat me in the fantasy playoffs. This is the older Amari Cooper who seems to be a little injury prone and kind of in and out of the offense. CeeDee Lamb, obviously, I think is the new number one there. So
I'm so glad
I'm still going to pick Charles, though. Yeah, good call. I'm going to pick Charles, though.
Okay. Yeah, I don't blame you. I think it's going to be close if they both have all their guys in. I don't think either way it's not going to be a blowout. And I forgot to mention this earlier, but there is like practically no history between these two teams. They've only played each other once. Week 10 of this year, Charles won 185 to 124 in a low-scoring game, and then the other matchup, only one previous time they've met. Mr. 300 beat Bedford G-Reg 254 to 204 in Week 4 of 2020. So that's that for Conference A. Conference B, I guess we can start off with our matchup, Jameson, here in Conference B. It's currently not looking good for myself. I've only got 5 damn points, and it's already like over halfway through the third quarter from Nasir Adderley at this point.
Oh, please keep it like this.
This is atrocious. This is disgusting. This man has dominated all year, and somehow he has 5 points. I'm not even sure if that's a legit 5 points, because I'm pretty sure it came from an assist. So it's probably more like 3 points or whatever, or 4. So our game, though, I mean, we've played each other a decent amount of times. Like, we've played each other 8 times. I lead the series 5-3. We've never played in the playoffs, though. So this is a first for both of us. Both. I think I shared it in the group chat in our league. Like, you and I were the fastest to hit, 5 playoff losses in a career between the two of us.
Yeah, I didn't know we'd be bringing that up again. When you invited me on tonight, I didn't think we were gonna talk about that. But yes, that is true.
The two most snake-bitten teams in league history. I mean, neither of us have good luck. I mean, I think fantasy playoffs, I'll be the first to say it, there's a lot of luck involved at the end of the day, because you got to be perfect. And sometimes the guy you play literally is perfect. Like, you know, all of his guys gets 30 points, like we saw last week, or 40, and they get over 300. I mean, even if you had a good game, you wouldn't have won that one. This week, who knows? I mean, this year Adderley's playing like crap, but maybe Alvin Kamara gets 50 and it balances out. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, you never know.
It's just fantasy playoffs, man.
Yeah, well, you know, one of us is going to get over the hump, though, right? Yeah, that's exciting.
That is exciting. One of us is going to finally get a playoff win.
One of us is going to get the opportunity to lose in the conference championship next week.
I don't know what it is with us. We just fall apart when we get this time of year. Like, we dominate the regular season, and if we only compete in the regular season, we'd win championships every year between the two of us. But unfortunately, that's just not how the cookie crumbles when you get to this part of the year. I have 9 postseason losses. You have 6. Together, we have 15 losses. And this is wild. You can combine the two teams, the second and third teams for the most losses, playoff losses in league history. They still wouldn't add up to the amount that we have together. Like, it's crazy.
And vice versa, if you combined our wins in the playoffs, they probably wouldn't amount to most guys who have been at decent playoff runs.
I'll put it this way.
I think we've got 3 playoff wins together. Like
the 10th most postseason wins in league history, career-wise, is 4. We're not even in the top 10.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
That's like so bad. That is so bad. That's so bad.
So I think here's what's going to happen. I think, you know, my roster, it got hot at the right time. It's kind of a collection of free agents for the most part.
Misfit toys.
You went on a bye week, so you decided to give your guys rest. So we'll see how it goes. I think it's 2 ways. You either blow me out with all your studs, you know, number 1 seed, or I win it closer. But I don't think my team has the ability to put up 260 or nothing crazy like that. Like, this is a 200 to 230 team. So I kind of need some of your guys to flop a little bit. You know, that's kind of my, you know, like my assessment of the situation, right?
Yeah. No, actually, I'll be the first. You know, I listened to the other podcast, LCC After Dark, and between all of them, only one person picked me to lose, and that was Cameron, because he said because of my poor luck.
Cameron.
And I have to agree with him, dude.
Aww.
I'm actually picking against myself this week because I'll
no,
put it this
you're
way,
trying
Jameson.
to jinx me. Don't do that.
No. Listen to me.
Don't do that.
When I looked at the playoff bracket, when everything was locked and loaded, we knew who was in, we knew the seeding. I saw you and Cody would play, winner between you guys would play me, and I was like, man, I hope I get to play Cody. And it's no disrespect to Cody and the team he had, but I don't think you can understate how Taysom Hill has somehow played so lukewarm in real football, but has dominated in the LCC. Like, and same with Elijah Mitchell and Hunter Renfrow. Like, a guy looks like some random guy off the street is dominating in fantasy. Anthony Barr has just,
Hunter Renfrow looks like me. Hunter Renfrow looks like me playing football.
Literally.
Like, if you were like, almost literally looks just like me playing football.
We are literally witnessing the Little Giants versus the Cowboys in that movie. I mean, that is this type of scenario, but except I'm the Cowboys in this instance, and I know what happens at the end of the movie. I already know what happens in the movie. I've got this great team, but I know that the Misfit Toys is the team that's going to do me in. And I just see it. It's a weird phenomenon when you see your death in the future. That's what I'm seeing right now. It's transpiring before my eyes, thanks to Nasir Adderley. That's what I'm
witnessing. Well, there's still some time, but let's hope you're right. Let's hope you're right.
So
I'm not going to pick anyone here. I'm not going to pick myself and jinx myself. I'm not going to pick against you because I've got too much pride. I'm not going to pick you because I've got too much pride. And I'm not going to pick against myself because I've got too much pride. So
if there is
I'm not making a pick here.
That the playoffs have taught me, I have no pride after week 13. And at that point, it's no longer pride. It's, can I just get a win this year in the playoffs? I just want to win. You know what I mean? Like, I do all this hard work. Just give me a win. Just one playoff win. That's all. I don't need to get to the Little Critter Bowl. I just want to get a playoff win. All right? Is that so much to ask? That's all I need. So let's move on. Our last matchup in the LCC playoffs for the week: the Spurs versus Once a Janitor. And believe it or not, Once a Janitor is the team that had a bye and won this division. If you look at it now, you would have never thought that. The way the team's performed, with the injuries and everything.
No.
It is just not good at all. And, this is... he's playing against a team, in my opinion, it's not, like, amazing. I don't think the Spurs are, like, an amazing team. I think they're a good team. They're a decent team. I think they could beat most teams any given week. But if I had to pick who I would rather play in the semifinals, assuming I even have a chance to win, it'd be Once a Janitor. That's the team I'd want to play. They're so banged up. And it's a shame because Once a Janitor has 9 wins.
Yeah. I mean, COVID, like, they've got 2 or 3 players on COVID, like 2 or 3 injuries. Thielen's not practicing. Swift's not practicing. Derek Carr's playing Cleveland. That game might get postponed because of all the Cleveland COVID cases. You hope.
for our matchup.
It's just like, so it's just bad across the board. Cameron's been pretty hot. He's still going over 200. Like, for me, this is probably the easiest pick. And no disrespect to Will, he had a great season. Will's been very successful before. I expect him to continue being successful. But I think Cameron wins this one fairly easily.
I do too. And it's crazy because Once a Janitor swept the Spurs this year. Swept him. Beat him in week 3 and then beat him in week 12. I don't know, man. It's
beating
hard.
Someone 3 times.
Yes, that is so difficult.
It's hard to do. Ask the Saints against the Bucks. It's so hard to do. Like, it's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot of times. Like, Cameron should win this one. And can I say something? Like, I don't know if I should say it. I don't want to create the family drama or anything, but we've talked a little bit off the podcast that you feel like whoever wins of us is going to beat whoever wins that matchup.
I have no problem admitting that.
Do you feel okay saying that publicly?
Yes, I feel good about that. And this is what the guy I'm talking about, Jameson's team, who may not even have a running back this week. I mean, like, I feel that way just because it's not when you get to any fantasy playoff, it's no longer about wins and losses. Who gives a damn if he went 12-0 the year before? Who gives a damn if you got the number 1 seed or number 2 seed? It doesn't matter. At this point, it's who has the best, matchups for week 15 or 14 or 16, 17, whatever week you're in your playoffs. And the Spurs, I think, get an easy win here, honestly. I think they break that streak and they go to, what is this, their 3rd or 4th straight conference championship.
Oh God, I can't take it. If he gets to the conference, I'm gonna have to mute the chat. I cannot. I'm not gonna be able to handle it. Like,
no joke. So 2020,
Cameron,
2019,
just name.
And let me check 2018. I don't even. No, he didn't make it.
It has been.
This would be his third straight.
It has been at least a couple years. Yeah, this would be 3.
This will
be 3.
I don't know if we've ever seen that before.
I will say, Cameron works the waiver wire, really well. And this is why Fab would be obviously fun, but the waiver wire, free agency, whatever. Picking up guys like Denzel Perryman, right? Like when he's throwing together a couple games. Excuse me. But locking guys like Jesse Bates and like Quan Alexander, he picked him up last week when he didn't have a linebacker, and he plugged him in. He got 32 points, right? Like right when he picked him up. So he works it pretty well. He finds these guys who are kind of hot late in the year, and that's tough to compete with, And Will's kind of the opposite in the roster construction right now. His team's really banged up. COVID's crushing a lot of his guys, and so it's going to be an uphill climb.
Yeah, it is. Well, that's all for the playoff matchups. I guess real quick, we'll just pick. We won't go into any breakdown at all whatsoever, but just for the developmental draft invitational, we'll make our picks. First one, we'll go to Conference A, Burroughs body count versus Abusen Park. This is a really good matchup, actually. Currently, 41 points from Nick Bolton. For me, Jameson, for this, and I'm just going based off the lineups now and assuming guys are healthy. Even with this boost in points that he's got, that is Burrow's body count, I'm going Abusen Park in this. I like Kyler Murray's matchup a lot and Aaron Jones.
Yeah, I'm going Abusen Park. I feel like I can never pick against Peyton, even though the record has always been kind of mediocre for the last few years, but I feel like the roster is always star-studded, and I'm always confused at what happens. I feel like I always pick Peyton to win. But I'm going to do it again. I'm going to pick Peyton.
Yeah, I agree. All right, next matchup in Conference A for the Developmental Draft Invitational goes down to another solid matchup, honestly. You've got Jiu-Jitsu Jesus going against Hunter of Champions, who barely missed out in the playoffs. He only has 17 points from Pat Mahomes, which is mind-blowing because I feel like he had 17 points at halftime, and it's almost the fourth quarter. Or it is the fourth quarter, maybe. I don't know. Wild. I guess in this case, because of that, that is huge. I actually might go Hunter of Champions.
Look at Hunter's offense. Look at Hunter's offense and tell me he shouldn't have won more games.
Oh, I agree.
Like Najee Harris, Pat Mahomes, Devontae Adams, Shaq Barrett. I don't understand. This roster is way too good. I don't understand. Isaiah Simmons even had a hot start. He's got to cool off a little bit, but I don't know. Anyway.
No, I agree.
I think this could be close, Pat. I think this could be very, very, very close.
I'm
going to pick Matt in the upset here. I think Fields has an okay game against Minnesota. Devonta Freeman, T. Higgins is hot. Like Mark Andrews, Aaron Donald had 3 sacks last week. I'm gonna go Matt in a close game.
Yeah.
Sky God.
Sky God.
Or Sky Daddy.
Sky Daddy. Sky God. Sky Daddy. I forgot I don't even know where that came from, honestly.
I saw it in the chat one day and I was like, isn't that God? And then I don't know, but
I don't know.
Sky Daddy.
It's in the sky, whatever it is. All right, so we're split on that one. We'll go to Conference B now. Let me scroll over here on my computer. So our next matchup, our first matchup of Conference B is Eastside Brawlers versus Two Girls One Cup. Two Girls One Cup has 15 points right now, coming from Micah Hughes. And not very good, honestly. I am actually Jameson because is Joe Mixon, was he questionable or something at one point? I don't know.
Nah, dude, he's clean. He's ready to go against Denver. He's going to run for 100 yards. Oh, yeah, he's ready to go.
Well, if that's the case, give me Two Girls One Cup.
Yeah, I want to say just very quickly, I want to give my guys a shout out here, Eddie and Alex. Alex, said congratulations after our matchup. Great sportsman. Eddie took this, like hellhole of a team and like took it in stride. Like, no, listen.
Your gloves were off on
Took it in
that
stride.
one.
No. I'm like saying, hey, like, congrats. Like, he took this terrible team and he was like, took it in stride. He's like, hey, I'm gonna give it my best shot. He was very competitive, very active. He was on Twitter and everything. Really funny too. I always crack up when I see his stuff. Like, I like both those guys. I think they're gonna be really competitive. I think they're gonna be here for a while, and I'm picking both of them. Your dad had a good win last week, but I do not trust Chuba. Tay Crowder, Ronnie Harrison's not even going to play. I'm picking Eddie and Alex in this one. Pretty easy picks for me.
Okay. Yeah. I think this one's pretty easy too, honestly. And then the Alex one, it is Slapdicks versus Labatard Lobos here. Jameson, I think that one's actually be closer than you give it credit for. I mean, Javonte Williams seems like the real deal at this point. I know
he's legit. Yeah.
You could argue that his lackluster performance, or Denver's lack of using him early in the year, partially cost Slapdicks a playoff run. But now, I mean, I could see him carrying them through the at least Conference B side of the Developmental Draft Invitational. I think I actually am going to go Slapdicks here. I think it's wild for me to say, but I might going to go with the upset.
Okay. No, I'm cool with that. Giving Big Awesome love. Not a problem there. I like some of the pieces. Javonte Williams is a really good pick. I think, it was a little high for this year. I think we probably mentioned that early in the season, but it's going to pay off next year.
Oh, definitely.
When, he's a top 5 running back, so he'll be happy with that pick next year. So.
Oh yeah, he definitely will. I think, anytime you can get your future running back locked up, that allows you not to have to worry about drafting one so early in the next couple years. So that way you can focus on other positions. You don't have to overreach for a position that consistently gets overreached for. And I think Slapdicks has that with Javonte Williams. Plus, you can use the rookie option next year, so it'll be free. Even better.
Yep, that's even better. It's funny. Like, when I did make the playoffs, I was like, sweet. And then I was like, well, shit, I was going to get a running back in the first round. And
yeah.
Now I'm not. So, because those are so important, being able to lock those guys up early and stuff. And so he'll be completely fine for next year, but I am picking Alex in this week matchup.
All right. Well, everyone, that is all we have for the Divisional Round episode of 2021. Jameson, it was a pleasure, man, having you back on the show. Next week, we've got the conference championship between Conference A and Conference B. So a lot of drama is about to unfold over the next couple of days. It'll be fun. We got football on Saturday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday, and Monday. So we're getting it all. In the NFL and the LCC. It's going to be a blast. But we'll catch you guys next week. And we'll see you later.
I want to say one more thing.
Okay.
One more thing, Pat. Nasir Adderley still only has 5 points.
God.
Just a heads up.
I hate you so much. I hate you so much.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, everybody. Have fun at the games this weekend. I look forward to hopefully being on again at some time, maybe before the season's over. If not, hopefully in the off season. It's tough with the little baby and stuff sometimes, but this is fun, man. I look forward to seeing you guys next time.
All right. We'll see y'all. Best of luck to everyone besides Jameson. No, I'm just kidding. All right. See y'all.